Ben Carson was a neurosurgeon. He's decided that he's going to run for president of the United States. He's a Republican. Now, the problem with the Republicans is they often don't know what the hell they're talking about. And Ben Carson is certainly no exception. Goes on Hugh Hewitt's program, and he's going to talk about foreign policy. Mistake, fairly large mistake. Let's listen.
And so should we have that sort of commitment that if Putin makes a move on the Baltic states, we'd go to war?
Well, if we have them involved in NATO, we need to convince them to get involved in NATO and strengthen NATO.
Well, the Balts, they are in NATO, so that's. But Dr. Carson, one of the things I know that's going to come up, and again, I don't do ambush interviews, but when it appeared you didn't know that the Baltic states were part of NATO, or where you date the.
Well, when you were saying Baltic states, I thought you would continue our conversation about the former components of the Soviet Union. Obviously, there's only 3 Baltic states.
Right, and they're all part of NATO. And so what I worry about as a Republican, as a conservative, is that because you've been being a great neurosurgeon all these years, you haven't been deep into geopolitics, and that the same kind of questions that tripped up Sarah Palin early in her campaign are going to trip you up when, for example, the gotcha question, does she believe in the Bush Doctrine, when it depends on how you define the Bush Doctrine. How are you going to navigate that? Because, I mean, have you been doing geopolitics? Do you read this stuff? Do you immerse yourself in it?
I've read a lot of it in the last 6 months, no question about that.
I've read a lot in the last 6 months. Now, listen, if you're unfamiliar with the state of the Baltic states and whether they're part of NATO or what other military alliance they're in, I hear you, man. That's not your job. If you're going to be president of the United States, that would be your job. And I'm not sure it's good enough to say, well, I mean, I read a lot in the last 6 months. I didn't read the thing about the Baltics, man. That's a shame. You got me on that one. Republicans do this every 4 years. They pick another African American that isn't involved in politics. By the way, why are they not involved in politics? Because African Americans are unlikely to win in the Republican Party. There's old Tim Johnson in the Senate, Mia Love in the House. That's about it. Right? So they got to pick somebody outside of politics because Republicans don't vote for black people. So they take somebody who ran a pizza shop, or they take someone who was a brain surgeon but doesn't know anything about this stuff. And he comes in and goes, Baltic states? And how do I know that they do this every 4 years? You remember Herman Cain last time around? Foreign policy, same result. Why?
So you agreed with President Obama on Libya or not?
Okay, Libya. President Obama supported the uprising, correct? President Obama called for the removal of Gaddafi. Just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing before I say, yes, I agreed. I know I didn't agree.
Oh, my God. That never gets old, man. The eye twitching? So, President Obama, Libya. So, now, let me get this right. By the way, he wasn't done. One more.
I do not agree with the way he handled it for the following reason. No, that's a different one. I got to go back, see. Got all this stuff twirling around in my head.
I got all this stuff twirling around in my head. Agree to disagree. I like how he got properly situated on that one, though. Now, let me move around here. You were saying Obama and Libya, right? So I guess by comparison, Ben Carson, not so bad.